family, peace, 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 peace. All right, I hope you guys are having a phenomenal day. If not, do understand and get it is going to get better once your perception gets better. So today's video, I pretty much wanted to be very transparent, very authentic, very vulnerable. Okay. Sometimes having a plan B could mess your plan A up. Okay. Sometimes we ask source for whatever it is, right? You may ask that you want to be in a better relationship. You may ask that you want a better career. You may ask for something that is going to enhance your life. And because you are afraid of letting go of plan B, it hurts your plan A. So I'm going to share a story with you guys. So for some of you guys, you may have known that I did rideshare. Okay, I did Uber and Lyft. I started back in 2018 doing it. And one of the main reasons I did it because in 2016, I had slipped and fell from, it was a snowstorm. I was coming from this hotel that the company that I worked for had paid, for food. It was a big storm. So the company I worked for, they paid for food, and they also paid the security guards to stay in a hotel, right? Like if the security guards didn't feel like driving or anything like that or going back home because it was a storm. So I had got pregnant. I just had a baby in 2016? Yeah, 2016, right? And I was at work because I slipped and fell, right? So I was at work. My neck was sprained, like my back was hurting. It was, whatever. So I started going to see a chiropractor who took x-rays and later told me that I had a disc, right? I believe it was like 6 disc or something. And so I was out of work for a while. When it was time for me to go back to work, okay, the company that I was working for, they had felt some type of way. I guess they looked at me like as a liability because one, I was out already because I just had a baby. And then two, I was it was too much time off, right? And then I, was out of work and all this other stuff. And it was some things that they was asking me to do that after a while doing it, like it hurted, like standing up for, a few hours or whatever it was. And then I felt kind of like they was like being like retaliation because it was like they'd call me and be like, looking on the camera like, oh, well, you gotta stand up and, all this other stuff. So that was prior to me being at work, that they would call me at the post and tell me to stand up and all this other stuff. So 2016, I was at work, and probably about 2017, okay, I was due to go back to work, or 2016, like probably like 6 months later. I get confused with the dates. But I was supposed to go back to work. And the supervisors, they knew that the person I had the baby from we worked in the same department, right? We both were security guards. And they were very accommodating far as, because we just had a baby. So they made sure we didn't work the same exact shifts, right? Because who would be with the baby and all this other stuff. So When it was due for me to go back, they tried to put us on the same exact shift, which they knew we couldn't work it because no one would watch the baby. And I remember I had spoke to the company supervisor that I directly worked for. And I explained, like, we're not supposed to, my shift not supposed to change, whatever. And he wasn't trying to hear it. He said, we give you a schedule, and if you can't do the schedule, then basically you saying you quit. So I had called unemployment and spoke to unemployment to try to file for unemployment because, at this point they were saying basically, I had to work a different shift. And so I was scared, honey. I was like so terrified. And I remember it was two guys who worked at the company, at the security company, but they left. And I was cool with them. And, one of the guys, he became a police officer. And he would go through this thing, I guess, like with unemployment and, stuff like that. So he knew it well. And I kept being so terrified, so afraid. And I said, what if I don't get it? Thinking this. And one of the things he kept saying, he was like, Dina, you gonna get it. Like, you gotta be easy. Like, you gonna get it because, if you working for a company, they not supposed to just like change your schedule, right? Because your schedule is like based upon, your children, whatever it is like that. So the schedule they give you is supposed to stay the same, okay? Or they supposed to give you, I guess, like a certain amount of time or whatever, letting you know that, but they not supposed to abruptly just change it. And so I still was afraid. And so unemployment, I remember this day like it was yesterday. I had got the call from unemployment, but honey, I missed it. You talking about frantic. I was so stressed out because I was like, I missed that call from unemployment. Now I'm not going to get it. The lady said she was going to call me at a certain time, but she called me earlier. And sometimes, like, when I'm growing through something like this, like, I get into worrying stage. Like, I start worrying. And so what happened was unemployment called me back. And she was basically telling me what the supervisor for the company that I was working with basically said. Like, he said I quit, like, all this other stuff. So I had messages. It was this app that I forgot, where as though you could retrieve all your messages that you ever had from a person. And it shows like all the receipts. And one thing about me that I started learning and this job taught me was always make sure you have receipts. So if you could text the person, always, because that is going to back you up, right? So later on, okay, what I realized was unemployment said that I was eligible for, unemployment because the job just can't, change it. And basically the supervisor lied. So I started collecting unemployment, and my unemployment, it was finna run out. And so my youngest children's father, he pretty much was fronting the bills. And I felt kind of bad because I was like, like, I don't want him, taking his whole check and, spending it, whatever, on bills and stuff, whatever. I thought it was unfair to him. And so I decided, I said, what, I'm going to do Uber, right? And I didn't know exactly, like, I knew picking people up and stuff like that. And I was terrified to do that, okay? But at this time, I was like into personal development, challenging myself and, things of that nature. And I never forget my first ride. I was so terrified, okay? My oldest daughter, I let her come with me because I was so terrified. And then I was terrified because I let her come with me thinking that the people was going to complain. And so what I would do was to get out of being, because I always used to hear my grandmother Back in the day, she would say, like, if people came over and, you would leave the person in the living room with my grandmother, she would say, I don't know what to say to that person and stuff like that because she was shy. And so I didn't know what to say to the passengers. Only thing that I would do was, put on stuff that I was listening to in the house. And at that time, it would be Les Brown, it would be Lisa Nichols, it would be Jim Rohn. I would just be listening to personal development. And so when the passengers got in my car, right, to make them feel welcome, to make them feel like they was in, I wanted to create an experience where as though they looked at, getting in my car and having a ride where as though is peaceful, is relatable. We talked, and there was times where as though I had passengers when I pull up to the house, honey, we would still be in the car talking, and I'm giving advice and stuff like that. And Uber, it was like really a good thing, like Uber and Lyft. I really, really enjoyed, doing the ride share and stuff like that. So I was doing Uber and Lyft. I think it had to be was it 2016 or 2017? I get confused with the date. So probably 2017. Because I know I did it for like 3.5 years. Okay. And I just started feeling a certain way after doing it for like 3.5 years. I started feeling back like the way I felt when I was working on a job, right? I felt like I was doing the same exact thing, rushing to get money. I felt like I wasn't adding value. And I started feeling like, you know, it was the same exact routine. Work, sometimes I would do 12 hours a day. And at this time, I'm doing, Facebook Lives. I'm doing, videos and stuff like that. Well, actually, it started off on YouTube first from a different channel of mine. And I was doing these things, and I just felt like it was like back to the same thing, like the rat race, right? And at this time, I had a vehicle that I was financing. And I just had this feeling like to be detached from, materialized things. So I wound up letting them come take the vehicle because I missed, I think it was like two car note payments. And I just was like, I don't want to sacrifice my happiness based upon money, right? And so I stopped, before they even took the car, I already detached myself. So meaning I was walking my children to school. And at this time, my youngest son, he was going to school like 14 blocks away from the house. We would walk to school. I just pretty much like really detached myself from materialized things. And so when they picked up the car, which was in September, I believe 2019? I believe 2019, they picked up the car. And it was like so much that was going on in my life. The guy who I was with for 5.5 years, we broke up, which it was a thing coming because I seen it. I just felt like we was in two different spaces, and I felt like, hold on, for me. I felt like we was in two different spaces. It's so funny because one of the things that I had said before was that sometimes in life, when your spirit know the relationship is over, right? That inner child part of you that may have experienced some form of trauma, you may try to make the relationship fit, right? Because you're afraid to be by yourself. And I knew, it was pretty much over. And, I had my spiritual awakening, and, things just started coming heavy. Okay. It was stress. I remember, me doing Lyft right after I did Uber. So, Uber have a cap where so you can only work 12 hours per day. And then they'll take you offline. They'll immediately kick you off. Okay. And then you have to wait until, I don't know if it's 8 hours, but you have to wait before you can go back online because their theory is you need to get rest, right? And so at this time, I was, I was doing both. I was doing 12 hours with Uber and then I was doing Lyft. And Lyft, I would be doing sometimes 12 hours, sometimes 8 hours. And the reason being was I had got kicked off of welfare, right? So they pretty much, looked at my 1099s and they was like, you made too much for you to collect food stamps and stuff like that. So here I am, the guy who I was in a relationship with, my youngest children's father. Okay, he we broke up. Now he may say like, oh well, I kicked him out. But the truth of the matter was, I had asked him to leave. And we've been going through this back and forth, but I asked him to leave. And he didn't leave right away. He left like a week later. And then come to find out he was messing with someone else, right? So all of that happened. And I remember I didn't even want to put him on child support. Because somewhere in my mind, I was like, me and him probably could get back together, right? And at this time, I didn't know he was, messing with someone until later on I found out. But I was afraid to let go. I was afraid to let go of the Uber and Lyft because sometimes we get caught up and we like, this is my source or this is my security. And one of the things my mentor, Bob Proctor, said was, if you think those things, anything outside yourself is just security, then you are sadly mistaken. Okay. And I was afraid because you know why? Because I could not control the unknown. And so what happened was, I wound up putting my youngest children's father on child support. I asked him several times if he could help me. And one time he reneged on our agreement. Then the next time he was supposed to do it, he didn't do it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to just do what I have to do. And I remember my homegirl said to me, because sometimes I have this theory that it's supposed to be hard. Okay. And that all stems from me feeling like I'm not good enough or trying to, prove my worth or whatever it is. And in the words of Aaron Doughty, one of the things he says is, you worthy because you exist. That's it, right? And my homegirl said to me one day, I was on the phone with her, and she said, Dina, I hear what you're saying, because I was making justifications. Well, I'm not going to put him on child support. I'm just going to do everything by myself. If, I got to struggle, I'm just going to struggle until, I get out ahead or whatever. And she was like, Dina, I get it, but it's not supposed to be hard like that. And so later on, I put him on child support. And fast forward, okay, so the car that I told you guys that got repoed, let me tell you how dope source is, whatever you deem source to be. The car got repoed in September, and in February, okay, my good girlfriend, she had called me. And I kept telling my children, like, we going to get a vehicle soon. I'm telling you, we going to get a vehicle. And my oldest son would be like, when? Like, you don't even have money for a vehicle. Like, hey, you going to get a vehicle. And it was just a belief. Like, I didn't know how I was going to get it. And my homegirl called me and she said, you know what, Dina, she called me a few times, actually, and I was missing the calls. And then when I finally got on the phone, so if you're a person that calls me a lot and, I keep missing the calls, I start automatically panicking because I'm thinking something is wrong, right? So when I got on the phone with her finally, I was, on my way to put one foot, I was about to get in the tub. One foot was in the tub and the other foot was, on the rug. And she was like, Dina, do you want my car? Because I'm at the dealership. I was so shocked. I was filled with so much gratitude. I busted in tears. I started thanking the universe over and over and over again. I started thanking her so much. Um, and one of the things that I'm going to tell you is you have to let go of the way you think things are going to play out. Okay? And sometimes we want security, like I said, right? We want to have that plan B, right? And honey, I ain't talking about the birth control method, right? I ain't talking about, the because you done had unprotected sex, honey, and now you scared that, you may be pregnant, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you have so many other options. And what I believe is sometimes in life, when you have so many options, that is going to take your main focus off of that one thing that may bring you all the success that you ever desired. Okay. And so fast forward, once I had the vehicle, right? My homegirl gave me the vehicle. Honey, I started doing Uber again. Okay, I started doing Uber Eats. And to me, it was just a form of me like I'm patient, and then seeing my children's father and like comparison, like, oh well, he working, and then I'm like, I gotta work because I don't want him to be looking at me like I'm lazy and all this other stuff. And although I'm doing the thing that I'm passionate about, like making videos and stuff, I still felt like I had to prove myself to him. And so after all of that happened, I started on Uber again. And then last year, okay, 2022, I had made a commitment to myself that the only thing that I was going to do was make videos for YouTube. Okay. And I remember I had called my mother. Okay, because at this time now I got a new car. Okay, well, it's a used car, but it was new to me. And I called my mother and I'm like, Ma, I'm gonna just do Uber. That's it, right? I had money from my taxes, so I was good. I had money, and so and then I had the child support money for my children and to take care of them. So I was pretty much good. So then my mother, she starts saying like, you don't know how you gonna just do, videos and stuff like that. And the way you like going out, she was pretty much saying like, I don't know if that's gonna last and all this other stuff. And then she was like, well, make an agreement. Let's make a bet that you will most likely go back and do Uber. And she started asking stuff like, how you gonna just do videos? And what about life insurance for the children? All this stuff that I never heard my mother speak of a day in her life, right? So after that, I was strong with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do videos and stuff like that. And then it was a part of me that was like, what about plan B? Like, you could still do the videos, but what about plan B, right? Have that backup plan. And so me having that backup plan, sometimes when you do not want to move, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, it will move on you. Okay? I remember this one particular day. I was laying in the bed. I had cramps and I was watching something on television. And I still got this feeling like I gotta like hustle. I gotta, pretty much do all this stuff to make ends meet. And as I was in the bed, I was like frustrated, saying I'm not gonna go out today and to do Uber and stuff. And I wound up going out and it was raining, right? So I'm driving, you know, putting myself in the best mood because I always talk about happiness is a choice. You decide if you want to be happy or not. And my car, the transmission just went. Okay. And I was like panicking because I was like, what the hell? Like, man, I don't have a car. I was thinking about getting a car fixed and, all these different things. And then fast forward today, right? Now, my car, I had to junk it because I didn't have the funds to get it fixed. And so a review had came up for my Section 8, okay? And the caseworker for Section 8 had took my income from last year and basically calculated it. And I was like, so stressed. Even today, I was crying. That's why, like, the beginning of this video, I looked the way I look. I was crying. I was stressed out. And I had to do an appeal. And as I was doing the appeal, the supervisors was asking me questions and, stuff like that. And immediately, I started thinking, like, because you wouldn't let go and trust the process, because you want everything very quick, because you listening to other people as opposed to source, because you want to keep plan B, which is stopping you from plan A, because you don't want to let go and trust the process. How's that working out for you? Okay. So I started thinking about all of that. And I'm going to just say, you may not be able to see it, but someone or something that is stronger than the human mind, whatever the human mind can't even fathom, it wants you to win. It wants you to win. Okay? You may grow through something so, temporary. And before you know it, honey, you going to have to pinch yourself because your life is going to change drastically. Another thing, you do not have to work hard. Okay? When my car got repoed, look, in February, my homegirl called me. 5 months later, do you want a car? And it wasn't hard or anything. It was just me trusting the process. And me saying, I know I'm going to have a car soon. So to the person that's out there, you may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there. You may want to keep hold to that point B, but honey, you're going to have to let it go. And trust and know that things are working out for you. Sometimes people say, well, you know what, I'm sick of this job. Or you may have a bigger calling than that job. And because you don't want to move, it feels like all this chaos start going on around you, right? You getting written up from your supervisors, you getting called in the office so much. And then one day you get let go. And you just like, you don't know how you're going to make ends meet. You don't know what you're going to do. Have faith. Have faith. Things are going to work out for you because they always do. They always do. And because you probably couldn't trust your mother or your father or whoever was your caregiver or caretaker, you probably didn't trust them because of all the times that they didn't keep their word. But Source isn't like that. Source isn't your mother nor your father, nor the caregiver. Okay? You can count on Source. And with that being said, I hope you guys got something from this video. I know this video is kind of long, but let me know what are some of the things that you had kept, right? Like as a backup plan, as a, saying like, well, if this don't work out, then I always have this to go back to, right? And also, what are some of the lessons that you have gotten from life or that you are getting from life now? And with that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Make sure you're rocking out and believing in yourself. Peace.